Battlefield 5 open beta is over and has been for a few days. During the beta I benchmarked a few CPUs. The benchmark run was on a fully populated server with 64 players and was run on the road north of C to the E point on the Navik map. I did 6 runs on each CPU and the best and worst run from each CPU was removed. I then took an average of the remaining 4 runs. I also added the standard deviation numbers between the runs so you get an idea of how much the runs differ from each other. Basically, the higher the number, the higher the difference between the runs. I used an old AMD Phenom X6 1090T at 3.8 GHz, an FX 8350 at 4.5 GHz, a Ryzen 5 1600 at 3.7 GHz and an i5 6600K at 4.4 GHz. All systems had 16 GB RAM at 1600 MHz for the DDR3 systems and 3200 MHz for the DDR4 systems. The GPU I used was an MSI Gaming X GTX 1070 with a core speed of 1911 MHz. And with that said, let's take a look at the numbers. The R5 1600 had an average of 83.5 FPS with 1% lows of 59.7 FPS and 0.1% low of 50.9 FPS. The i5 6600K managed an average of 85.1 FPS with 1% lows of 59.1 FPS and 0.1% low of 48.9 FPS. The AMD FX 8350 got an average of 67.5 FPS with a 1% low of 46 FPS and 0.1% low, tipping as low as 39.5 FPS. The Phenom 1090T struggled in Battlefield 5. The average was 57.5 FPS with 1% low at 34 FPS and 0.1% low at 31 FPS. I spent a bit of time with each of these systems and playing on the Ryzen system and the i5 system was pretty smooth. I would not have been able to tell these apart in a blind test. Playing with the FX 8350 was choppy but playable. The 1090T system was very choppy and almost unplayable in a fast-paced shooter like Battlefield 5. It was dipping way down in the 30s very often. Well, there is not much more to say except for thanks for watching, have a nice day, and don't call tech support.